Meantime, COVID cases remaining high in the U.S. as the Delta variant continues to spread. Joining us right now is Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner, CNBC contributor. He also serves on the boards of Pfizer and Illumina. So many questions to ask you, Doctor, this morning. We're seeing restaurants, for example, in Los Angeles, indoor eating shut down. Do you think that those decisions are the right ones? And I know a number of mayors and governors of other states and cities are starting to think about whether they need to take similar steps.
Look, I think the right decisions are the decisions that local officials feel they need to take to mitigate the circumstances on their ground. I think you're going to see a lot of heterogeneity in how the country approaches this wave of infection, depending on what the local prevalence is. So I would support any mayor, any local official that feels they need to take temporary steps. These will be temporary steps. Look, the end game here was always going to be a final wave of infection. And we talked about this. We had anticipated that the summer would be relatively quiet, and we'd have a surge of infection in the fall with B117. And that would be sort of the final wave of the pandemic phase of this virus, and we would enter a more endemic phase where this virus just becomes a fact of life and it circulates at a certain level, and we deal with it. We have therapeutics and vaccines to deal with it. We're better at treating it, and it becomes sort of like a second flu. I think what you're seeing right now is that the end game is a very big wave of infection in the summertime with a much more transmissible variant than we thought we'd be dealing with, earlier than we thought we'd be dealing with it, because that variant became prevalent far sooner than we expected, against the backdrop of a population that isn't as vaccinated as we expected. So if the original premise had been correct and we had this wave of infection in September with B117, we would have been dealing with a strain that wasn't nearly as contagious as Delta, and we would have been dealing against the backdrop of a population that presumably would have had more vaccine in it than we currently have.
Right.
So it's making the circumstances more difficult than we anticipated, but it was always going to play out that there was going to be one final surge of infection, and that surge of infection was going to happen against the backdrop of a population that largely didn't want to go back to mandates because, as we said before,
right,
the people who are worried about COVID are vaccinated, and the people who are unvaccinated aren't worried about COVID. So you just don't have the popular support for restrictive measures.
So,
if local officials can do it, I support them.
If you're a business leader running a big company today, we're looking, for example, at a company like Apple that's decided to actually push back the quote-unquote return to the office till October. That was something that a number of businesses, many businesses across the country were planning to do at a minimum, I think, by Labor Day, if not earlier. How do you think about that? What's the right call?
Yeah, I think you're going to see more of that. The challenge right now is we have a lack of modeling about how this is going to play out. First of all, CDC is putting out no modeling, which is hard to understand. There was consensus models put out yesterday from a group of about 10 different academic groups that model the virus. They show a peak. They mostly show a peak around back to school, right around back to school. But the dispersion in the scope of the epidemic that they're predicting across the different models is extremely wide, which means there's no agreement between the different models, which means they're having a difficult time modeling this wave. I think the bottom line is we're going to see continued growth, at least for the next 3 or 4 weeks. There's going to be a peak sometime probably around late August, early September. It's possible you see a second small bump as kids go back to school, as the schools become vectors of transmission,
right,
like we saw with B117. But this will come and go. And I think for businesses that want to reopen against the backdrop of a more quiescent period of time, October might be prudent. September was always iffy, even under the old scenario, because September was when you were likely to see the resurgence in B117. So it was always iffy that you'd be reopening right against the backdrop of when that final surge would come. I happen to believe that we're further into this Delta wave
right,
than we're measuring. So this may be over sooner than we think, but
right,
we don't really know because we're not doing a lot of testing now either. Even though testing is widely available, more of the testing is at-home testing with Binax now and things like that.
right.
Vaccinated people who get infected aren't presenting for testing, and a lot of the young and healthy people who are the ones who are predominantly being infected right now also aren't presenting for testing.
Well, so that was my next question, which is, as kids go back to school, and even though, my kids were in school all last year wearing masks, I don't know if you think with Delta it's going to be much more difficult. But then I was going to ask you about testing, even testing those who are vaccinated, and whether that's necessary, especially if you're running a business where people are going to be either in open floor office plans or even warehouses or other things, even those among those that are already vaccinated.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for governors to have mask mandates on return to school. Even blue state governors, a lot of red states have come out and said that they're not going to do it. So I think you're going to see a lot of states leave it up to local officials to make decisions about whether masks are going to be required. I don't think it's a public health necessity to test people who are vaccinated to see if they might be asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, except for one exception. I think we need to understand whether or not people who are vaccinated are more likely, if they do get infected, either an asymptomatic or a mild infection, to transmit this new Delta variant. We know from the prior data that if you were vaccinated and you were infected with the old Wuhan strain, or the B117 for that matter, and you developed an asymptomatic infection, or you were mildly symptomatic, you shed much less virus. You were far less likely to transmit the infection. In fact, the CDC said that, and that was the basis of their recommendation to lift the mask requirement for vaccinated people. But when you're dealing with a new variant where the virus levels that you achieve early in the course of your infection are 1,000-fold the original strain, it's possible that you're shedding more virus and you could be more contagious. And that becomes very important because if you're vaccinated and you have a mild cold, do you go around your kids? Are you around an elderly individual who might be vulnerable? Or do you take more precautions? Do you get yourself tested? Do you avoid those circumstances until you determine whether or not you could have a mild or an asymptomatic infection, even being vaccinated? That's a question we ought to answer. And the only way to answer that is to systematically test at least some cohort of vaccinated people to see if they're becoming infected, and if they're becoming infected, if they're likely to transmit the infection. So CDC should be collecting that data right now to answer that question. That's going to be a critical question because it's very likely that the strain we're dealing with in perpetuity is going to be this new, more transmissible Delta strain. This Delta strain seems to have outcompeted all the other strains, so this might become the new coronavirus that we deal with in perpetuity until another form of this virus comes along and displaces it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.